So without further ado, let me introduce our guest speaker. So Leon Bian has spent a lot of years on the field of cybersecurity. He's also an entrepreneur. He has started his own companies. Currently, he's the head of product management, cybersecurity solutions at Intuit. He drives strategic product and product vision to manage and protect sensitive customer data. Today's wireless world named him one among the top 100 wireless technology experts of 2014. Leon earned his master's degree in management and engineering from MIT and completed coursework in general management at Harvard Business School. He's been in the industry for a while and a Silicon Valley veteran, so to speak. And so it's great pleasure. Welcome, Leon, and let me pass on make you the host and let you take it away from here. Thank you so much for joining us today.
So here I want to talk about 10 steps to stay safe online. First is we should turn on second factor authentication. So as I mentioned, what is second factor authentication exactly? So when you enter your password and login credentials on your online account, let's say a bank account, you would get into your account summary, right? But second factor is with second factor authentication, you will need to enter an additional code. And this code constantly changes. Typically, it changes every 30 seconds. And it's typically anywhere between 4 digits to 8 digits long. Most of the time, it's six digits long, right? So how do you get this code? Most of the online businesses today, like banks, brokerage firms, and so forth, they send you a code. So after you log in, they send you a code on your cell phone or to your email address, right? And then, so with the second factor, if someone stole your password, they will not be able to get into your account unless they also have access to your email address or they have access to your cell phone account. So definitely turn on all second factor authentication on every account that offers. That means your bank, your email account, your brokerage firm, even online shopping. They were hacking into Amazon as well, right? I heard one of the colleagues. But I want to point out is email and cell phone, these are less secure methods to receive the second factor authentication code. Because as you see, my SIM card was hacked because some hacker went into AT&T and basically pretended to be me and took my SIM, right? And got a new SIM card with my phone number on it, so they can receive these verification codes. Ideally, use a software application. So here are some of the common software applications like Google Authenticator, Authy, LastPass Authenticator. But if you want to be more secure, you can use YubiKey. It's a FIDO U2F. This is a little bit technical jargon, but use a hardware key, right? Or Google Titan key, and you can pair your key with your online account. So that will give you enhanced security over over the cell phone or email. The second tip I want to share is to prevent phishing attacks. A lot of times, hackers attack your computer or your phone through phishing attacks. And how do they do that? They typically send you an email or a text message. It looks innocuous, right? But they have a link. And sometimes the link shows one thing. For example, the link says Bank of America, but the real link actually goes to some malicious site, right? Or sometimes they give you an attachment. The link could take you to a website that asks you to enter your personal information, online credentials, or prompt you to download malicious software. Once you download the software, or once you enter the credentials, then you are officially hacked. So what do we do, right? Be very, very suspicious of emails or text messages from unfamiliar senders. You should never click on a link or download an attachment unless you're sure it's from a legitimate source. If you must click on a link in an email or text message, copy the link instead of clicking directly in the text message or in the email, because oftentimes these hackers, they will show you a legitimate email address, a link, but in reality, the link is actually encoded with a malicious URL, right? And then think twice about entering personal information or login credentials on an unfamiliar website. So I used to register everywhere with the same password, but now I don't. I'm super cautious, and if it's a weird website, I don't enter any of my personal information. Avoid downloading software or plugins. I think plugins, you have to be really, really careful. If you use Chrome, if you use any web browser, right? There's this plugin you can download. Once you download the plugin, and most of those plugins, they have the privilege to read everything you type in the website. So that includes your password, your credentials, anything you type. So be very, very careful. And now I have disabled most of the plugins in my web browser. And then change your password immediately if you suspect you fell victim to a phishing attack. The third tip is update your software. Software upgrades, they often include important security patches and other new features to close security vulnerabilities and better protect your devices and data. So what do you have to, what kind of software do you have to update? So it includes pretty much every smart device, right? Smartphone, computer, TV, smart TV, security cameras, Alexa, routers, everything. Whenever there is an update, please make sure you update the software or the firmware. And then most importantly, also applications, right? On your phone, on your PC, on your Mac, and so forth. So updating software is really, really important to protect yourself from any security vulnerabilities. Number four, the fourth tip I want to give is to protect your data. So number one tip is back up your data, right? On Mac, you can use Time Machine, and on PC, you can use a variety of tools, right? Like Mini Tool, Shadow Maker, there are other tools that you can leverage. Now, I want to share some stats with you. How many people actually back up their data every day? So according to a report, only 6% of the computer users or phone users actually back up their data daily, right? 24% of the adult users never back up their data. 42% do it once a year or less, and 34% do it once a month. Now, if you update your, if you back up your data daily, and then if you are under ransomware attack, so all of your data is encrypted on your computer, you can just easily restore from your backup. Then you don't have to worry about losing any information, and you don't have to pay ransom dollars, right? So I think backup is really important, but not just also, backup is also important if just to prevent you from, if there's a hard drive failure. For example, 2 weeks ago, my MacBook actually died all of a sudden. I couldn't boot up. So backup is really important. And then I want to talk about encryption. So always turn on your device encryption on your computer, on your phone, right? So for Apple users, it's a little bit easier. If you're a Mac user, you can turn on File Vault. So if someone gets a hold of your Mac, and if you have File Vault turned on, most of hackers won't be able to hack into your Mac. They won't be able to read your data at all. For iPhone, all you have to do is to set up a passcode, but for Android, you need an additional step, going into settings and turn on device-wide encryption. For Windows device encryption, sometimes some of the Windows systems shipped, they have encryption built in. But if your Windows machine doesn't have the encryption, then you need to use a third-party application. right, to do the encryption, like BitLocker, VeraCrypt. So encryption is one way to prevent you from losing your data in the sense that other people might be able to read your data. And then end-to-end encryption for cloud storage. So if you use Dropbox, iCloud, it's not exactly secure. So if someone hacking to your Dropbox account or your iCloud account, and they can actually read your files, right? That's stored in the cloud. Or Apple or Dropbox, they can also read your files, even though the files are encrypted on their cloud servers. They have the key to decrypt the files, right? So that's why you want to use an end-to-end encryption mechanism. For example, Box Scripter is a good one, that which I personally use. Proton Drive is another one. And then if you're using online chats, right? So you must be aware, a lot of these chats are end-to-end encrypted, meaning only you and the person you're talking to can read the text messages. But if you're using iMessage or WhatsApp, there's a feature to back up your chats to the iCloud. If you back up your chats to the iCloud, uh, then it goes back to the problem I just mentioned. If someone can break into your iCloud cloud account, then they can still read your messages. Now, Signal and Telegram, these are also two other end-to-end encrypted online chat programs. So those are, just be aware of backing up to iCloud. If you are concerned about your email security, use an end-to-end encrypted email client. Proton Mail is a top one, which I personally use. I use Proton Mail primarily for my online accounts. They offer a free version, which is probably adequate if you're only using Proton Mail for your online accounts, right? Or bank accounts or brokerage accounts, online shopping, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I use. I'm pretty happy about this service, but there are other ones as well. Use a password manager. As I said, um, many years ago, when I first started to use online accounts, I used to use one password, one login username for all of my accounts. But because of recent breaches, right? So a lot of those credentials are actually posted on the dark web. There is a technology called credential stuffing. So essentially, the hackers would use a bot. They would purchase these credentials from the dark web, and then they would go to various websites, right, and to try your credentials and see which credentials could actually get into your account. So let's say if you use the same credentials on Amazon as you use on Bank of America, they could potentially log into your Bank of America account using your Amazon credential. So it's very, very important to use a different password for each online account. But then you also have to use complex passwords, right? 12 characters. How do you remember any of that stuff? I don't. I think it's going to be very difficult to remember. That's why it's important to use a password manager. These are some of the most popular ones. Personally, I use LastPass. It also has a family plan, so I use it. I give it to my wife, my father, so they all share the same account, right? But there are other ones. One Password is another one. Dashlane is another one. But if you do a Google search, you can see quite a few of those password managers. And I have to say, the password manager really changed my life. I can also store my credit card numbers into the password manager. So sometimes when I do online shopping and I don't have my wallet with me, or I left one of the credit cards at home, I could actually go in there and find my credit card information. So this is really handy, and I highly recommend it. Number 6 is using a VPN on public Wi-Fi. And the reason is this: when you go to Starbucks, or when you go to any at the airport, right? You connect to the Wi-Fi. Sometimes it's free, sometimes it's not free, but it's not secured. So essentially, someone, if they're trying to hack your computer, they could actually listen and see what you are typing into your computer by listening on public Wi-Fi. And that's why if you use a VPN system, that will essentially protect you from this kind of hacks, right? On public Wi-Fi's. These are a couple of VPN services that are highly rated. I'm using NordVPN right now. I previously used ExpressVPN. Proton VPN seems to be a reputable one. Surfshark, it's another one. Now, sometimes you also have reasons to use the VPN to protect your privacy. So even if you are home, right, and you're visiting websites, reading all kinds of stuff, your IP address is actually exposed. So if a malicious website, if you go there, they could potentially pinpoint where you live just by looking at the IP address, right? So that's really, really concerning. So if you're concerned about that, doing regular web surfing, you can also use a VPN. But I think VPN is something that many people should consider. I don't use it all of the time, but when I feel that I need privacy, or if I need to be secure on a public Wi-Fi network, then I would actually leverage the VPN service. And then number 7 is protect your online privacy. We're constantly being tracked, right? I think it's 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago in 2019, a reporter from the Washington Post decided to look at his iPhone and see how many trackers were on his iPhone. So he spent one night and he put some software and worked with a security firm to actually determine how many trackers were there. He found on his iPhone there were 5,400 trackers, right? Tracking every move that he was making, every website he was going to, everything he was doing, every click he was making on iPhone, right? So we are being tracked constantly, but it's not just on iPhone, on websites, when we post on social network, when we talk to Alexa, right, or Google Home, we are being tracked all of the time. So how do we protect our privacy? I think privacy is also an emerging field, even from a security professional. So there's security, and then now there's privacy. They are not exactly the same, but they're intertwined, security and privacy, right? So you can take advantage. There's one notable tip I want to share, which is Apple, just a couple of weeks ago, they pushed out a new iOS operating system. And now you can tell your iOS apps not to track you for advertising purposes, right? So not to use your location, etc. So on the right-hand side, you see this picture. It's called iOS app tracking transparency. So essentially, all of the apps are required to ask you, do you want to be tracked for advertising purposes? And you can also go into the setting, right? Settings menu, and just turn it off for good for all of the apps. I highly recommend. It's bad for for a lot of online applications business, but I think for individuals' privacy, everybody should turn this off. So essentially, tell all of the apps, do not track me, right? On websites, if you look at the lower right, this is a message from Coinbase. So we have a legislation in California called CCPA, California Consumer Protection Act. And then there's also a legislation in the European Union called GDPR, General Data Protection Regulations, right? So essentially, these legislations offer consumers a lot of protections over their security. So for example, you can ask any online business to delete all of your data, right? So, and they have to comply within a certain period of time based on where you live. So you can tell the websites not to track you. And every website that you visit right now, you essentially see this pop-up screen, right? And you can choose to decline certain tracking. Use a web browser with strong privacy features. So personally, my favorite is Brave. So Brave browser, it's based on Google Chrome. Chrome, if you know, it's the most popular web browser in the world today, right? But Brave is built on top of the Google Chrome engine, but it has a lot of built-in strong privacy features. So for example, it has an ad blocker built in. So you can easily, well, you don't have to even have to do anything. You download Brave, you visit a website, you no longer see any ads, which is really, really awesome. Because if I search on United Airlines, if I didn't have the ad blocker, then I would constantly see airline ads, right? You probably have similar experiences. So with Brave or Firefox, they have the strong privacy protection features. And finally, it's the human factors, which is think twice before you share your whereabouts on social media, and think twice before you share your personal information online. So for example, my wife and I, we had a pact when our first kid was born 10 years ago, and we said we would never post our kids until they're adults. We would never post their pictures online, right, on social networks. And we still follow this. And sometimes our friends tag them, but so be it. So we're really, really careful, right? I think we should all be very, very careful about sharing our personal information online. You don't know who you're, who's watching. Safeguard your cell phone number. That's number 8, tip number 8, which goes back to my personal story. A hacker often they want to hijack your cell phone, and the reason they want to hijack your cell phone is to be able to receive second factor verification or second factor authentication code on the cell phone. So what they do is they call, they pretend to be you, right? And call AT&T or Verizon, your wireless carrier, or sometimes they walk into a store, retail store, and they say, oh, I lost my SIM card, right? I lost my phone, so I need my SIM card back. So the wireless carrier would actually issue a new SIM card. And sometimes these hackers, they actually have a blank SIM card. So they read the number, the serial number, and then immediately they have a live SIM card with your phone number on it. So the way to prevent it, one way is to set up a passcode with your wireless carrier. So for example, if your carrier is AT&T, you can go onto the AT&T website, log on to your account, and then set up additional security. So what does this passcode do? This passcode, if you set up this passcode, you if you need to make any changes, whether at a retail store or call in or log into your account, to do anything, you have to enter this passcode in order to make any changes to your account, right? And if you lose the passcode, they can send you a new one, but it won't work for SIM swappers because they don't have your SIM, so they can't reset the password. It's not foolproof. It's not 100%. Sometimes the a store employee would actually overwrite this, but you are protected, much, much better protected than if you didn't have the passcode. Use a Google Voice. That's another tip, which is because Google Voice is tied to your Google account, right? So it's a Google Voice. If you haven't used it, it's like a phone number. You can receive text messages, and it can forward phone calls to your cell phone, to your landline, all of that stuff. So it can be used as a text message number. So use Google Voice. Google Voice is less susceptible to SIM swapping attacks because there's no social engineering. There's no support provided by Google. So a hacker cannot call Google and say, oh, I want to change my SIM card or number. But just protect your Gmail account with two-factor authentication. Freeze your credit. I think I'm running out of time here, so I got to go really, really quick. Freeze your credit. you can you're familiar with applying for credit. Your bank would actually pull a credit report, right, from one of these agencies. Um, that's a necessary step. But if you freeze your credit with these credit bureaus, then a hacker, right, cannot open an account in your name by applying for credit, because your credit is frozen. So you can always lift the credit freeze temporarily when you need to apply for credit. They give you a key, a passcode essentially, and then you can lift and you can refreeze all of that stuff. And then finally, this is the last tip, right? I see Arvind showing up, so I'm gonna be really, really quick. Plant your flags. So I stole these words from a website called Crabs on Security. It's a cybersecurity blog, and essentially they're suggesting there are certain government agencies, right, that offer online accounts. Plant your flags means you register for these accounts so that identity thieves won't be able to open fraudulent accounts. So for example, at the federal level, Internal Revenue Service, get an account today. If you don't have it, with that account, you can retrieve your income tax transcript. You can apply for a PIN code to file for taxes, right? Social Security Agency, right? SSA, the administration, you need to also open an account and park it there, right? At the state or local level, DMV is one of them. And U.S. Postal Office, they have something called informed delivery. So every morning, if you register, you get an email with all of your mail to be delivered to you in the afternoon. And make sure that you also register an account there, so you park your account, so a identity thief won't be able to open an account, right? But make sure in all of these cases, enable second factor verification or second factor authentication wherever possible. So with that, I will pause here. Hopefully we have a few minutes for Q&A.